Alright, welcome back to YouTube, Zaxter99. People out there, today I'm going to be making something I couldn't find on any YouTube videos at all, and I couldn't even find a recipe online at all for this. It's a really popular dough up here in the Northwest USA, states like Oregon, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Washington. It's called deep fried scones. Some people actually refer to it as elephant ears. Um, or Indian bread. It's not really Indian bread though. Indian bread, I think of it as more like tortillas. This is actually a soft bread dough that actually rises and is really fluffy, and it's deep fried in oil. And then people usually cover it in either. The most popular thing is honey butter. Kind of smother it in honey butter while it's hot, and eat it like that, and it's absolutely delicious. Or you could sprinkle it with sugar and cinnamon, or even powdered sugar and cinnamon. Any way you eat it is actually delicious, and it's served at a lot of mom and pop shops around the area of the Northwest. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make it homemade. And the first ingredient you're going to actually need is yeast, because that's what's going to help it rise. And these packets that you actually buy, usually you buy them in 3 packets of dry active yeast, and you're going to use just about half of a package. 1 teaspoon is actually what you want. Each of these packets actually have about 2¼ teaspoons. So we're going to go ahead and start with our yeast in a big bowl, and it'll be just a second while I open this yeast. Alright, so I've got our yeast opened up here, and I'm just going to go ahead and pour in 1 teaspoon of the yeast, and then what I'll do is I'll actually wrap up this, fold up this packet, make sure it's good tight, so that I can use that next time I need yeast. And again, it's going to be about a half a packet of that. The next thing you're going to want is a half of a teaspoon of sugar. And the sugar is actually what's going to, you don't want to add any salt here. A lot of people make a mistake and add salt. Salt will actually kill your yeast. The sugar is half a teaspoon, and what that's for is for your yeast to actually eat. Yeast is actually basically live bacteria, something along those lines, and it actually eats the sugar, and that's what starts its growth. And then to actually activate the yeast, now you're going to need half a cup of warm water. And to do that, what I do is I actually come over to my sink and I put it on hot. And you got to get the right temperature of the water, because too hot of water will actually kill your yeast. Too cold of water, it won't activate your yeast. So what I do is I run it under there until it's about the right temperature for a really hot bath. Okay? You don't want it smoking hot, because that'll be too hot. But you want it about the temperature of a really, really hot bath on a cold day. And that'll probably be about the right temperature. Okay. And once you add that water, what you want to do is take you a spoon, go ahead and stir it around. Let me set my camera down here. Pick your bowl up, and you just want to mix up that yeast, get it all mixed up so the sugar and the yeast and the water is incorporated, so that your yeast can actually work. And then you'll want to go ahead and set the bowl down, and you'll want to go ahead and wait about 5 to 7 minutes, and just let it set, let the yeast start working. And once it starts working, you'll actually notice that the liquid starts bubbling up. So we'll go ahead and wait, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Alright, if you sit and watch your yeast work here, you'll notice that it starts bubbling up after about 3 or 4 minutes. And that's actually what you're looking for on the yeast ingredients here, the water, yeast, and the sugar. So the first ingredient now is going to be a half a cup cup of sugar. And we'll go ahead and add that right in. And yeast is kind of cool the way it works. You can actually just see some weird stuff going on. I always thought that was pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and set the camera down and let you watch from here. Okay. And after half a cup of sugar, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of, or a half a teaspoon, sorry, half a teaspoon of regular salt, not sea salt. If you can prevent, if you just get regular salt, you don't want the iodized salt. You just want regular, good old table salt, and a half a teaspoon. This is actually what helps activate the rise. You'll add that in. Next thing you'll need is 1 egg, 1 large egg. And so we'll add that now. If it'll break, it's all hard eggshell there. You'll add that right in. Alright, after your egg, you're going to add 1/2 a cup of warm milk. Again, this is going to be temperature important. You want to make sure it's not too hot or too cold, or your yeast won't work properly on the rise. So what I actually like to do here is take my 1/2 a cup of milk. Obviously it's going to be cold right out of the refrigerator. And you're going to want to put that, it's going to vary on your microwaves, but I'm going to put that in my microwave here and turn it on. I want to get it to, again, about the same kind of temperature where it's a nice hot bath, but not blistering hot. So I'll put it on a minute here. It probably won't take quite that long. While I'm actually waiting for that milk to warm up, I'm going to go ahead and grab 1 cup of warm water. Again, the same kind of thing here, looking for a hot bath, but not scalding hot. Probably a little hotter bath than your kids would want. A mature bath, probably. And we can go ahead and add that right over here to our mixture as far as the water. Again, that's 1 cup of warm water. Let's check out our milk. It's been going about 45 seconds in here. Kind of feel it. It's a little bit hot. So probably a little hotter than we want. So we're going to go ahead and wait just a few seconds for it to cool off just a bit. Again, too hot a temperature of your milk or your water can kill your yeast, and we don't want that. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put some of this stuff up. And you can see the inside of my refrigerator. Yippee yippee ki-yay. Alright. And just takes a few seconds for that milk to cool down. Shouldn't take it long. Just kind of hand touch it, make sure it's not scalding hot, and you should be okay. And any kind of vegetable or canola here should work. You're just looking to add some fat and moisture to your scones. And actually, after you add that vegetable oil, you'll want to go ahead and stir up the ingredients there, kind of break up that egg. Break up the egg yolk. Get a nice stir going on there. Get that sugar, that 1/2 a cup of sugar that we added, all incorporated here. Should be kind of a foamy yellow mixture here. Okay. Now after that, we're going to want to change from this metal spoon at this point to a wooden spoon if you have one. And I can't tell you the technical reason why that's important, but it is. So I've actually used a metal spoon trying to mix in the flour here and wound up with poor results. So use a metal stick or a spoon. I pretty much don't have a spoon, I just kind of have a wooden stick here, part of some wooden, I think it's salad tongs. You'll want to add flour there, just all-purpose flour, 1 cup at a time, and start incorporating that with your wooden spoon or wooden handle as you add the flour. And you'll want to go ahead and stir it in 1 cup at a time. It's going to take probably about 5 cups of flour, maybe up to 5.5 cups of flour, maybe even a little more. It just seems like it varies a little bit every time I make this. I've actually used up to 5 3/4 cups of flour. There's a lot of variables in here, maybe the brand of flour you use. You definitely don't want to use self-rising flour here though, because you've already got your salt and your yeast in. That's going to help it rise enough. You definitely don't want that self-rising flour, because that actually has baking powder and stuff in it. You don't want that. Here goes cup number 2. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's kind of a, as I stir it here, there's almost like a snap, crackle, pop, like with Rice Krispies or something going on. You can definitely, I think that's something to do with the yeast. But it's definitely making some sounds. Yeast is interesting. But it definitely helps make some delicious scones and breads and everything else you make with it. Alright, and we're going to go with cup number 4. And it's not going to be real important that you're exactly precise on these cups of flour, because like I said, you're just going to be looking to add enough flour to where you almost get like a Play-Doh-like texture. You definitely don't want it, if it's too sticky and gooey, you haven't added enough flour. So you don't want it to be sticking to your fingers, because we're going to want to knead it just a little bit before we let it rise with our hands. And if it's sticking to your fingers, you haven't added enough flour. And add in cup number 5. And most of the time that I make this, it takes at least 5 cups of flour. A lot of times it takes about 5.5. So and don't get too creative with this scone dough recipe. I know that sometimes you might think like cinnamon or something like that might be good in it, but you got to be careful, because ingredients like cinnamon can actually kill your yeast, so and make your yeast not work. So you want to be really careful with experimenting with something like this. And right now you can see after 5 cups it's still got a nice sticky texture. You definitely don't want that, so you're going to want to start adding maybe about 1/3 or 1/4 of a cup of flour at a time, so that it becomes more like a, like I say, more like a Play-Doh feel. And it's going to start kind of forming, when you get the right amount of flour, it's going to start kind of forming a ball by itself when you stir it around. It's going to be really thick, if you can kind of see that. We're starting to get somewhere, but I can already tell it's still sticky, and you can tell by the way it's coming up from my spoon that it's still really sticky. And we're going to go with another 1/3 of a cup of flour here. And I wouldn't go with that 1/6 cup all at once, because you'll probably have too much flour, and then you'll be trying to add more warm water, because it'll be falling apart on you. So I'm trying to tilt the bowl here while I work, and you kind of see what's going on. And this is pretty much a very similar way with how you're going to start any bread dough, or how much almost any bread dough is going to be made, is going to be the same kind of a process. Similar ingredients probably. Sometimes they require a little more sugar or different ingredients, but alright. Still a little bit sticky, it looks like. I can tell again from the way it's reacting when I pull my spoon up. Just still a little bit sticky, so we're just going to have another teeny bit of flour, and it'll probably be really close. Half this video is going to be me adding flour to the dough to try to get it to the right texture. And once you get to this point, you can kind of actually pull the dough off with your hands and go ahead and get both hands in there and start kind of kneading it a little bit. It's still a little bit sticky, could probably use a little more flour. And like I say, this is really close to about 6 cups of flour that we've added. So like I say, it's going to vary from time to time on how much you use. Usually I'm somewhere between 5.5 cups of flour to about 6. Okay. Let's go ahead and get just a teeny bit more flour in this. And work that in. You don't want it sticky at all, or it's going to be hard to work with when you fry it. And at this stage, you're almost done. You're going to want to need to let it rise. Obviously, you want a room temperature room. If your kitchen is cold, if it's the winter or something like that, and you're kind of, looking in your 60s or something in your house, you're probably going to want to maybe open your oven door and let it warm up a little bit. Maybe even set your bowl of dough on the oven door with an open oven door. It's going to need to be probably around 80 degrees, 75, 80 degrees to rise properly. So if it's not that warm where you're working, you might want to put it close to an oven or something like that so you can get it going correct. You're going to just leave it like that, and you're just going to want to cover it up with a towel. And a lot of people say use a wet towel. I just use a dry towel all the time, and it works fine for me. We're going to go ahead and let it rise for about an hour or until it doubles in size, and I'll be back when it does that. Okay, it's been about an hour, and we're going to go ahead and check our dough and see if it's doubled in size. And it's definitely swollen here, so that's about how you want it. What you're going to want to do is go ahead and kind of punch it in and get all that air out. Alright, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of our bread dough here, take it out, put a little flour on it on your hands, and kind of make it into a little ball here, and get some flour on your cabinet or whatever you're going to work on here, and just go ahead and spread that dough out. What you're looking to do is maybe spread it out to about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch thick. 1/2 inch is probably a little too thick. It's going to be hard to cook all the inside of the dough without burning the outside. So the thinner the better on this. Flip it over. If you get any flour on it, work that in. Work it from both sides. And it doesn't have to be a perfect spot of dough. Just kind of flattened out. It can look like anything. In fact, all the mom and pop shops that I ever bought scones from, it was just kind of random blob of dough. Each one was a little different looking. It wasn't like a pizza where it looked the same or anything. So I've got my dough here that I've formed out to be a scone, and I've got my deep fryer, which I've been heating up, and it's at 375 degrees. So what I want to do is just go ahead and put your dough down inside there. And if you're doing a lot of people don't have a deep fryer. If you're using a skillet and a stovetop, that's fine. You can certainly do that. If you're going to do that, you probably just want to use about 1.5 inches, at least 2 inches of vegetable oil, or you can use Crisco that you melt down, or you can, I use peanut oil here in the deep fryer, and I prefer peanut oil. So if you can get some peanut oil in your skillet, That would actually make the bread dough crispier and taste a little better than vegetable oil. But vegetable oil is going to taste okay too. I just prefer peanut oil for stuff like this. Um, you know, peanut oil is what you want to use for like donuts. And this dough is almost like a donut or something, so. And if it pops up like that, what you want to do is just get a little grease on top of it, weigh it down. And what you're looking to do is just go ahead and put it in for about 1.5 to 2 minutes on each side. You're looking for a golden brown texture or color, and it's almost there right now. And like I say, I have my deep fryer here on 375 degrees. So you're going to want that oil really hot. That's key. Before you put your dough into your oil, you want to make sure it is, you know, really hot. Because if it's not hot enough, it's not going to crisp it up and cook it correctly. Instead, your bread dough is just kind of soak up all the grease, and it's not going to taste very good. Alright, I believe we got it done on that first side. I'm going to go ahead and lift up my basket here. And go ahead and turn it over. Now my little piece of dough that I made here was a little bit thin in the middle, and that's kind of why you see that. And that's fine. And I'm going to go ahead and cook it on that other side now. Usually doesn't have to cook on the second side quite as long as the first side. And this stuff is delicious. I wish I could explain how good this stuff is. If you have the, you know, all this stuff on you, definitely highly recommend making this stuff. You know, and I don't know what I'm going to call this stuff because these scones have so many different names. But since they only seem to be popular up here in the Northwest, I think I'm just going to go ahead and come up with my own name for them and call them Rocky Mountain Scones. Because I don't know what else to call them. It's definitely not the Indian fry bread. Like I say, those are more just like a snack bread. Oops, kind of tore a piece off there. This is really nice and soft. And let's go ahead and it looks a little bit light on the bottom there, so let's go ahead and cook it just a little bit more. You want it a nice golden brown, like I say. And a little piece tore off here. I don't know if you can see that or not. This camera's not that good, but that's kind of what the inside's going to look like. Just a real nice fluffy, doughy texture. Really easy to eat and chew. Alright, we're going to go ahead and lift up our basket here. Kind of let all that excess oil drain off. Now, if you're doing this with a skillet on your stovetop, what you'd want to do at this point is actually use some tongs to take out your dough out of your oil and have maybe a cooling rack. What I would do is actually put like a cookie sheet down and then put a couple of layers of paper towels on top of that cookie sheet and then a cooling rack right on top, so that you can place your scone kind of like this onto the cooling rack instead of the basket, and then let the oil drain off onto your paper towels. Definitely put those paper towels down though, so you don't have a greasy mess to clean up, or a greasy cookie sheet. So we're going to go ahead and take this out now and stick it right on a plate. And then it's not ready yet. What we want to do now is put some honey butter on it. That's what these are typically served with. You can actually put granulated sugar or powdered sugar and cinnamon on top if you want. Some people do that. You can actually put jam or jelly on it if you want. What I actually like is honey butter. And right here I've made my own honey butter just because honey butter is so expensive in the store. You can make it yourself a lot cheaper. And really what it takes is about 2 parts butter to 1 part honey. So if you're using, you know, 2 sticks of butter is what I've used here to fill this little tub up. I kind of melted it down a little bit, and then I've just put in about half as much honey as I have butter, and about a teaspoon of cinnamon. So it doesn't take too much cinnamon at all. It's mostly just butter and then honey. Again, about 2 parts butter to 1 part honey. And as you see, as you put that honey butter on there, that honey butter is just melting to a nice, yummy, it's not a glaze because it's actually a liquid, but kind of tastes like a glaze you might taste on a homemade donut or something. It's just, I can't describe it. If you've never had one of these, I highly recommend you try one. They're, I'm sure they're loaded with lots of calories and fat, but they're good to have once in a while. I definitely wouldn't recommend eating these every day, or you probably look like the Goodyear blimp. But that's actually what they call, or what I'm calling, a Rocky Mountain Scone. And I can't even explain how good this thing is. Thing is absolutely delicious, especially with that honey butter on it, like I say. And just wait till you try your first bite. And I think you're going to be really happy with it and probably get addicted to them. So with that video, this is Axter99. I do want to go ahead and let you know that if you have any comments, questions, suggestions at all, go ahead and leave them in the comment section down below. And if you have any, if you want to rate my video here, if you like the video, you try these cones out and you love them, hey, give me a thumbs up on it. And, if you try them and you hate them, or, you just hate my video for some reason, go ahead and leave me a comment. Let me know why, but leave me a thumbs down. I'm certainly hoping you leave me a thumbs up, because I definitely think these scones are a big thumbs up. So just don't eat too many of them. You will probably get fat. With that, enjoy those scones and happy cooking. This is Axter99 signing off.